Chapter 8. What are you doing here? The big question is whether you're going to be able to say a hearty yes to your adventure. Joseph Campbell, American mythologist and author whose books and ideas influenced the making of Star Wars. Getting clear about what your unique purpose is can be the difference between living a happy, fulfilled life of abundance, choice, and expansiveness, or living in the restrictive veal pen of your own indecision and tired old excuses. A gift, of course, is meant to be given, which is why it's so brutal when we can't figure out what ours is, or when we know what it is, but we're too lame to act on it. Here we have the perfect gift to share with the world, just bursting to be opened, and we keep it sitting there, wrapped tightly in a box, growing old and gathering dust. Oh, the waste, the agony. Meanwhile, the joy of giving someone the perfect gift is unparalleled. We all know how it feels, hopping back and forth from foot to foot, wringing our hands, practically peeing in our pants, begging them to open it. Open it already! Jesus H. Christ. Here, let me freaking do it. The power of giving is so strong that the excitement and the good feelings are often greater for the giver than for the receiver. Which is why, when you find your calling and you design your life in such a way that you can share your gifts with the world on a consistent basis, you feel like a rock star. When we share what we were brought here to give, we are in alignment with our highest, most powerful selves. Most people, however, wander through their lives giving the tasteful candle version of their gifts. You know, they don't show up to the party empty-handed or anything. They present their somewhat flaccid gift to the world, receive a warm hug and an, "Oh, you shouldn't have," in return, but they don't knock it out of the park. For example, they get a job doing something that they either hate or that's a bit of a yawn but is, okay. It affords them a life that covers the basics as long as they don't go too crazy. They do fun stuff, but not as much as they'd like because they don't have the money, or the time, or the belief that they deserve to. They have little victories here and there. They meet their sales quota and win the 6-day cruise to the Bahamas, or rack up enough miles to go stay with their aunt and see the Olympics, or finally sit down and write an entire song that they may or may not ever record or perform. But they never truly go for it and create a life that really lights them up. They basically big snooze their lives away. Every single person is born with unique and valuable gifts to share with the world. Once we figure out what ours are and decide to live our lives putting them to use, that's when, and only when, the real party begins. Living a life on purpose is available to everyone. So if you're struggling or settling or completely confused about what you're supposed to do with your life, know that the answer is already here. It exists, and so does a life you can't wait to create. You just need to get some clarity first. There are entire books written on finding your calling, some of the best of which I share in the resources section on my website, www.jensincero.com. But the following are a few of my favorite tips. Keep in mind there's no right way to go about this. Everyone's journey is unique, but we're all trying to get to the same place, the place where we feel happiest, the most alive, and the most like ourselves. Even if you've nailed the perfect career for yourself, listen on because these tips can help you in all areas of your life. How to get clear on who you are and what your calling is. 1. Be the alien. Imagine that you're an alien floating around in outer space, and you suddenly swoop down to Earth and inhabit your own body. As the alien, everything about this life is new to you. You look around. What do you see? What is this person who you've inhabited so obviously awesome at? What do they have the most fun doing? What connections do they have? What resources and opportunities are available to them? As the alien, to whom everything is new and exciting and there's nothing at risk and no past to lug around, what are you going to do with this incredible new life you've stepped into? How are you going to use this new body and this existence to create something fabulous and awesome starting right now? This exercise is hugely helpful for getting a new perspective and stepping outside our boring ass ruts of tired old excuses and lame habits. It can also be very useful in making you aware of all the staggering possibilities and resources that you have at your fingertips and take for granted or do not see. Sometimes it's as simple as looking at things with new eyes to see how astoundingly fortunate we are. Be the alien for 24 hours and see what you come up with. 2. Take the first right step. Instead of wasting hours and days and years trying to figure out your perfect next move, just do something already. Oh, the time we waste rolling ideas around in our heads, imagining what ifs, coming up with the perfect reasons why and then the perfect reasons why not, tearing at our cuticles, making our friends and family carefully screen their calls in case it's us again, wanting to go over some ideas. Get out of your head and take action. You don't have to know exactly where it's going to take you. You just need to start with one thing that feels right and keep following right-feeling things and see where they lead. Most answers reveal themselves through doing, not thinking. When I discovered my calling as a coach, I was, ironically, in the midst of a lifelong obsession with figuring out what the hell my purpose was. While I always knew writing was part of it, I also knew I wasn't meant to spend my life locked away in a silent room, alone and half crazed, wrestling words into submission. I wanted something that A, involved interacting with other people, B, helped people in some sort of direct way, C, was really fun, and D, forced me to bathe, dress, and leave my house. That's about all I had to go on, that and my intense desire to figure it out. So when a friend told me I should check out a women's entrepreneurial think tank group that had just started up, I figured I'd go. We were all supposed to bring a project to work on, but I had nothing, just the hope that I'd get some ideas from something someone else brought to the table. After sitting there for 4 weeks watching this room full of women figure out what they love to do and turn their brilliant ideas into businesses, or grow the businesses they already had, I still had no project of my own. But I did know what I wanted to do. I went up and asked the facilitator if she needed any help, which she did. She hired me, and I started leading these groups, which, after a few years, led to me starting my own coaching practice, which led to me working with clients all over the world, which led to me sitting in the studio recording this book. No matter how clueless you may feel right now, pay attention to suggestions and opportunities that suddenly present themselves, and notice how you feel. Is there something for you that, for whatever reason, feels like it might be good to check out? What have you been saying forever that you'd love to do? Has somebody mentioned a course or a teacher or a book that keeps sticking in your mind? Take the first step in the direction towards something that feels right and see where it leads you. And do it now. 3. Do your best wherever you're at. Once you take this first step, it's possible that you won't land in your dream situation right away. You might land on a stepping stone. It could be an awesome stepping stone, or it could be kind of an unawesome stepping stone. But no matter where your first step lands you, if you want to keep moving forward, appreciate wherever you're at instead of feeling ashamed or grouchy or impatient about it. Everything you do along your journey contributes to where you're going. Let's say you've decided that you're going to go after your fantasy of being a rock star, and you take a job waiting tables so you have the flexibility to travel and play gigs and go into the studio. Clearly, your calling is playing music, not being concerned that some whiny customer's French onion soup is allegedly too cold, but it's essential that you care anyway. Having a good attitude and being grateful for all the things that are helping you live the life of your dreams will not only make your life a more pleasant place to be and get you bigger tips, but it will also raise your frequency and attract the people and opportunities to you that will take you in the direction you want to go. This is where being really present in the moment comes in handy. Granted, you may not be on stage in front of thousands doing a split in the air, but remember that you are going for it. You are bravely moving towards your dream. You are surrounded by unthinkable miracles and opportunities. Lean back, relax, and be grateful that you're living on purpose, that you're hanging out in a high frequency, and that everything you need is zooming towards you. 4. Don't reinvent the wheel. Look around and see what other people are out there doing. Whose life makes you totally jealous? What things are people doing that you would love to do too? Who do you think is the coolest person ever? You don't need to invent your ideal life from scratch. You just need to figure out what makes you feel alive. So if what someone else is doing sparks your interest, take notice. It could mean that your calling has something in common with theirs. Get specific about the things in their lives that turn you on. Is it the fact that they get to travel the world? Or that they have a solid routine? Or that they have no routine? Is it that they work alone? That they work in the nude? That they get to be outside all day? That they work with their hands, their eyes, their ears, their animals, their spouse? The more specific you get, the easier it'll be to create a picture of what you want. Read magazines that interest you. Talk to as many people as you can. Hang out in places where people who share your interests hang out. Put yourself out there, and you never know what you might learn that will inform you of your next move, or whom you might meet who will present you with your next opportunity. 5. Don't get caught up in the Thunderbolt hype. I think one of the most paralyzing misconceptions is that we're all supposed to have one true calling that comes to us in a mighty flash of soul-defining insight. While there are those people who've always known exactly what they want to do, there are a hell of a lot more of us out there who spend most of our lives, if not all of our lives, wandering around looking under rocks and behind trees for who we are. Let yourself off the hook if you don't have that one big, perfect thing that you know you came here to do. Same goes for finding the one big, perfect soulmate, by the way, and feel good about the fact that you'll probably fulfill several callings throughout your life and possibly relationships. If you think about it, it makes much more sense to evolve as you age anyway. When I think about who I was in my 20s compared to who I am now, I can't imagine anything more unappealing than going after some of the things that resonated with me back then. Follow what feels good in the moment, every moment, and it will lead you through a most excellent life. 6. Listen to your intuition. If you really want to get in touch with who you are and what you love to do, and who you love to do it with, dedicate some time to tuning into your intuition. One of the best ways to do this is to spend 5 minutes of quiet by yourself every day. We spend the vast majority of our time moving at full speed ahead, both physically and mentally, and we literally bulldoze over the very answers we're seeking because they can't be heard above the din. When you sit quietly and ask, you get an answer. Eventually. Stick with it, be patient, and wait to hear from your inner guidance. You have all the answers you need, you just need to give them the chance to get through to you. 7. Follow your fantasies. Now that I've given you all the kinder, gentler ways to figure yourself out, I'm going to suggest something you're probably not going to like so much. Jump into the deep end and follow your fantasies. What do you fantasize about when you're staring out the window of a train, or before you go to sleep at night, or when you're pretending to listen to someone really boring talk your ear off? Are you on stage doing stand-up comedy in front of thousands of hysterical fans? Are you surrounded by your beautiful children in the coziest, happiest home ever? Are you being celebrated for building orphanages around the world? Do this exercise as if money weren't an issue. Tap into what brings you great joy instead of what you think you need to do to survive. If you had an unlimited supply of cash, what would you spend your life doing? Our fantasies are the most revealing peepholes into who we are and what we think is awesome. No matter how out there and ridiculous they may seem, they mean something to us and usually represent our biggest and best versions of ourselves. Our fantasies are our realities in an excuse-free world. Meanwhile, we'd all be mortified if anyone could read our minds and catch us in the act. I know, it's totally stupid. I want to sing on Broadway. Well, is it really stupid? Someone's out there doing it, so why couldn't you? Much of the time, we pretend we aren't clear on what our calling is when what's really going on is that we're horrified to face it because it seems too big or too impossible to make a living at or completely out of the question for us. But what if you had the audacity to leave your excuses and your shame about wanting to be huge and fabulous behind and really went for it full on anyway? What if you decided to do the most outrageous, most exciting thing you ever dared fantasize about, regardless of what anyone, including your terrified self, thought? That would be living. 8. Love yourself like you're the only you there is.